welcome to the third episode of Two Mums Talking After Road Death. I'm Mandy Garner and I'm here with Yvonne Bruce.
Hello.
Hi, Yvonne. And today we're going to pick up where we left off, really. We were talking about the impact on our children. You've got Nadia.
Yes.
How old was she when Jack?
17.
And I've got Maya, Layla. So they're all quite difficult ages.
Yes.
Anyway, I think we spoke before about the difficulties of trying to manage different people's grief, and everybody reacts differently, and children are no different from that.
No, definitely not. And like we touched on before, it was the impact that friends and family had on us, but it's the immediate family that, again, I found quite tricky to navigate with Nadia, because her being a teenager, they don't talk at the best of times, and I just remember the awful moment when I had to tell her what had happened, because obviously when we had the police come round, Nadia, in her innocence, didn't think anything of it. Simon and I knew straight away that something was really wrong. I was kind of hoping that it would be that Jack had been involved in an accident and he was in hospital. You've always got that part that you think, please let it be that. But when two officers knock on your door, it's never for the good. It's never for the hopeful. And I just remember they told Simon and I first, because like we said, Nadia was in the room on her own with Treacle, our dog, trying to keep the Treacle from barking at the police. And because the police officer had told us quite clear and quite quickly that Jack had been involved in a road traffic collision and he hadn't survived. And my first instinct was to just go and get Nadia and tell her. And I just remember her reaction was so awful. She just kind of screamed out, "Where is he? I want to see him. What do you mean?" And it was just, I just had to hug her. I just had to hold her so tightly. And then it obviously started off the chain reaction of, phoning immediate family to get them to come over. And also Nadia had her boyfriend Ethan. She had been with Ethan for about a year, I think. So he was so good, he came over straight away. Yeah.
In our case, they had each other. Maya and Layla had each other. I think that was really, really. Even though they didn't really talk to each other about that, I don't think. I just remember them sitting in the bedroom together, listening to, there was a new BTS album, and they loved BTS. And it was just, I think, thank God for BTS. If I ever met them, I'd each and every one of them for helping them through that, because there isn't really anything you can say, and they're all very different personalities.
Yes.
So they all respond in very different ways. Whereas one might want to talk, or at the beginning, want to talk about it. The other one, just can't,
doesn't want to acknowledge it at all.
Going the other way. Then Faiyal was very, very young, and it was so, he was just terrified of everything, and he would just sort of pull me into the side of the road when we were walking along the pavement, and thought, who's next, basically. I think that's what
protecting.
And he said, I just remember him saying at one point quite early on, he said, "I've seen a YouTube tutorial, Mum, can't they? I think they can save her. I think they can save her."
Oh no.
And I was just like, "Oh no, I think they can't, they really can't." Just all the different ages and all the different personalities and different ways of coping. And we all have our own ways of coping as well.
Yes.
And so, and you want to, as a parent, you so want to help them. And that's part of, seeing them grieving is just very, very painful. And seeing what they've lost in terms of their relationship.
I think Nadia just went quite quiet, actually, because there was emotion at the very beginning, obviously. And, but then there wasn't, it wasn't as if, like with me, I was crying. I think I remember distinctly crying every single day. Every single day I was in tears. And And I just remember thinking, worrying about her because there was no reaction. There was no, one thing I did know is when we had friends come round and they would sit and talk, obviously you relive it all over again. Everyone wants to know in a caring way what happened and how could it have happened. And you kind of go through your mind, this just seems such a senseless um, act. And I think Nadia could hear that. And I think it was almost like she then went into shutdown.
Yeah.
She didn't want to talk about Jack in the past. She didn't want to talk about him in that. If you mentioned that Jack had died, she would walk away. She'd turn her head and walk away. And I remember that a couple of times when we obviously bring Jack into conversations, she talks about him in the present, and this is what Jack does, and oh, Jack loves these like this music, or Jack loves these trainers. And I recognised that quite early on, that she didn't want to be, although she wanted to be involved in things with regards to his service. She wanted to come and see him when we were at the morgue at the hospital, and also back at the when Jack was moved to the funeral home. She wanted to come. She was very clear that she didn't want to be left out of any of those steps. That she didn't want us to leave her out of the organisation part and any developments, especially when it came to the police as well. She wanted to know about it, but I don't know whether that was her way of protecting herself and believing that something's going to fix this.
I don't. I think there's no easy answers, because I know that some people say, you have to include the children in everything, and she asked to do that, and I just wasn't. I was not. I just don't know what to do, and like whether to take them to the funeral parlour or not, or maybe I should have done. And also it was COVID. COVID was happening.
Yeah,
so there was a lockdown like at first. So the funeral was the very week before the lockdown. And they both Maya and Layla wanted to say something at the funeral. But when it actually came to it, Maya just absolutely, I think she got about 2 words out, and then she just broke down and cried. And then Layla was supposed to go after her.
Yeah.
They couldn't read things. So I just said, I'll read it, because she took quite a long time thinking what to write and everything. So I read out Layla's one. And then the week after the day of lockdown, the actual day of lockdown, was when we went to the Old Bailey for where he was supposed to plead. The driver was supposed to plead, and it was completely like London was completely.
Yes.
It was just.
I remember, yeah.
And we left the kids at home because it was only supposed to be a summary thing. But in any event, his lawyer didn't turn up, which was part of the course.
But did the children say anything to you? Did they say, "Oh, we want to"?
No,
Yeah.
they didn't ask, and so I just did what I thought.
As a mum, you want to do the best. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't our decision to. I remember when the celebrant came round for Jack's service, and obviously you have to go over from the moment he was born, because she was the one who was going to be reading something at his service, and she had a conversation with Nadia. I think that, I don't know what happened on a particular day, but there was a time when she was obviously on her own with Nadia, and Nadia had burst into tears and spoken to her and just said, "I feel Mum and Dad are leaving me out."
Yeah.
So it came through her. It wasn't something that was that we consciously, she had asked somebody, and then the celebrant had said to us, Nadia has said that she feels a little bit left out, and she wants to be included. But I think when it came to going to see Jack, I think we were just on it wasn't a mission. It was almost like we were just on this trajectory, this path of, well, this is what you do next, this is what you do next, this is what you do next, without even thinking. But we did say to her, we're going to go and see Jack at the hospital. do you want to come? And I remember the coroner they were very good, because they said that, you know, there's nothing visual that would indicate that Jack has been in any kind of trauma. And I think that really helped, because they told us straight away, you should come, because he does look very peaceful, and you know
Yeah,
and
that's
he
the thing.
did.
We didn't know. We
Mm,
didn't know what she was going to look like. And then when we went to the funeral,
mm,
and Gustavo he came out quite quickly as well. But it didn't, because it didn't seem to be like her.
you said that.
Weird thing, and it felt very, very odd. Like it wasn't her. Um, in a way, it was a relief. And so I think we were so caught up with that, and it was actually quite soon before her actual funeral, I think.
Yeah.
So there was all of that happening at the same
Mm.
time, and then worrying about COVID and funeral restrictions and trying to find
Of course,
somewhere.
because you had that additional pressure, didn't you? Which is just awful.
Should we have it? Should we have the funeral? Or
No.
people coming, like, because Gustavo's family's from Spain, they couldn't get there because Spain was worse.
Lockdown.
And my stepbrother came over from America, then he had to go back because Trump, said no flights from Europe, and he only just got back in time, so he didn't actually go to the funeral. And there was just such a lot happening, and also we were having the visits from the independent police inquiry,
Yes, yeah.
telling us how that was all going to play out, and yeah, there just seemed to be an awful lot happening. But it was after. So then obviously there was lockdown, and then there was school,
Yeah, yeah.
and then there was homeschool. And so
Oh my goodness.
I think they went back. Layla didn't go back, I don't think, because she was having trouble at school anyway. But they went back for a very short period, and then
Mm.
between Anisha's, maybe like the week after or 2 weeks after Anisha's death, until the lockdown.
Yes.
And then they were all at home because they were doing. So Maya was just entering the A level thing,
Mm-hmm.
and Layla was entering the GCSE. So they'd just done the first terms of A level course and the GCSE course. It was quite full on, the kind of workload that they had as well.
So do you feel that was kind of like a distraction, but not the distraction that you needed, because it kind of took away what was actually happening?
It's just, yeah, it was made it much more difficult, I think, because they had to sit there and try and motivate themselves to do stuff, particularly Maya. I think that was really difficult because she had a lot of, they gave them a lot of work at the beginning. They did produce that eventually. And then it was so in and out of school, wasn't it, the whole time?
Yeah.
So the school were very good. They were at 3 different schools. The Maya school was really good, and they had counselling services.
Oh, that's good.
That they did. So we had that awful. I think I've spoken about that awful session that we had over the summer. But then when she went back to school in the September, she got a face-to-face counsellor.
Yeah.
And that just made quite a lot of difference, I think, because she was like, I'm not going to do it online again. And also she was seeing her, it was the deputy head teacher, saw her every 2 weeks. And actually, I think that was more,
Oh, well.
that was better for her because
Yes.
she knew her.
Yeah.
She trusted her, and she had really, they spoke. And I think that's one of the few times, apart from with her very close friends, that she's actually spoken to anybody really about it. And Layla was up for doing online counselling. So she had done some counselling before. So she went back and did that, but it was CBT kind of. And, she was trying really hard. It was all, like, if you get some sleep and like make a nice sleep routine and all that.
Yeah.
To do all that, let's have a nice sleep routine. She still wasn't obviously sleeping because it's grief. It's not, just a little bit of, or whatever CBT might work for. And so she did then later have another online thing, which was through Grief Encounter. And that was a kind of art therapy thing. And I think that was better.
Yeah, I'd heard of those as well, but I don't know. It was Nadia's age. She just didn't want to to engage in anything like that.
Yeah, Maya didn't really. It's just that it was there
Mm.
and um, it was good that she could talk to somebody at the school because she was having panic. I remember her when they went back to school and they went back and they had assessments straight away
Oh
to see how
gosh.
they'd coped during the lockdown bit.
Yeah.
And she just rang up in absolute floods of tears and she was like, I can't go into the room. I'm having, she was having
Panic
panic attacks and
attack.
stuff.
Mm.
And they did sort of make allowances for that, but it was just so much pressure on her because she's like, I haven't been able to do all the work.
Yeah, of course.
I read a paragraph and nothing goes in.
Yeah.
I can't take any of this in. And she was getting more and more behind and more upset. And I'd go into her room and see her sitting and like just crying. And yeah, that was really, really hard. And trying to have conversations and sort of say if I'm here, if you need to talk to me and
Yes.
all that kind of stuff. But she just sort of closed down. She didn't want to talk about Anisha.
They don't open up that dialogue. And I just remember saying to Nadia, you can't make me feel any worse, because part of me felt that they were trying to protect us. Because like I say, I was crying so like every day, and I just felt so low. And there's those points where it's so exhausting because you're trying to, do the most basic things like, make dinner. Yeah, exactly. Get out of bed, make dinner, have a shower, all those things. And I remember saying to Nadia, if you ever want to talk, just I'm here, because it can't get any worse. Because this is as worse as it's going to get, and I just worry for you. And she was, yeah, I'm okay, I'm okay. And I remember we did get some. I got some counselling through work, some sessions, and the lady that I had the counselling with was so lovely, so lovely. And I had managed to persuade Nadia to have a counselling session with her, and as far as I'm aware, it went really well. And obviously, the counsellor can't disclose what Nadia talked about, but Nadia said that it really helped. And I really thought, well, this is a way in. This is a way for Nadia to let out all her emotions and say how she's feeling to somebody that she trusts. But she didn't do any more. She only did the one. And I know we've spoken about this before, where you kind of, how far do you go before they then start getting irritated by you when you're saying, why don't you book another one? Do you want me to book you another one? And that's when they then shut down then, don't they? And they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. And if you keep saying, I'm here and what have you, and you think, oh, they're just sort of rolling their eyes almost. They're just like, yeah, I think it's you have to sort of wait for the right moment with anything with teenagers anyway. You do have to wait for the right moment to talk, but just be around, and rather than just I don't know. We did a lot of like driving, and that was the thing we used to do. It used to be such fun, like going on journeys and things together with Anisha and having all the music on in the car, and the disco bus, and and we just put on her all the things that she liked, like Fleetwood Mac and everything. And it was almost, I felt sometimes like they were trying to make me show, where I was trying really hard to keep things together. They were trying to put on the most emotive type of music, but they didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, so they're trying to make you feel better.
Feeling it too, and that we're all feeling it, and that we don't even have to speak. We can just put on a Fleetwood Mac song and we absolutely know we're all there with Anisha. And
it does take a while before you kind of like realise that, because, like I said, I realised that Nadia was comfortable talking about Jack, and on all the things that we do and we did, and we have visited, because that's one of the things that I found, that going to the places that we used to go with Jack, because when we had our which we'll talk about later on, our resilience training with road peace, is one of the things they talk about is places that you avoid. And I remember thinking, we can't avoid anything because we did so much with the children. We went to restaurants, we went on drives, we went on our bikes, we went down to the beach. So at what point do you, if we avoided all the things we did with Jack, we wouldn't go anywhere?
Yeah, you're constantly retreading
Mm.
all the things like the school run.
Yeah, yes,
I'm
exactly.
doing that every single
Yeah,
day. Every single day, it's the same thing. And sometimes I felt like I was in a kind of tunnel of in the car, and everything else was unreal outside, and we were just,
that's
I
a
find it
really
really
strong
difficult.
feeling. Yeah, yeah.
Reality
Mm,
sort of element of it, that nothing feels real. Yeah, I think it's impossible to avoid
mm,
doing things, and also if you've got other children, they're coming up to the birthdays. So
yes.
like that was a difficult one for Maya when she was coming up to be 20, when she would be older than Anisha.
Yeah,
That was really difficult. But all of the birthdays, everything, all the things they were going through at school, that, the fact when she was doing the A levels, and
yes.
like recently we went for an award ceremony for Gael, and it was the same building,
Of course, yeah.
the
Same,
same thing.
same
And it's
routine.
like,
Yeah,
it just gets you. You just cannot, here I am. I'm just having to go through this again and again and again.
yeah.
And there is no way. There is no.
There's no escape, and because Nadia liked talking about Jack, I kind of like felt that it was therapy for all of us to, still go back to those places and still do the things that we really enjoyed. Because one of the things I kept thinking is at the very beginning, I panicked because I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is the end of us now," because Simon and I are going to be on a completely different journey, and you hear from the documentaries that you watch and the dramas that you watch that anything that this happens to a family, I thought that Simon and I would then end up splitting up. That Nadia would be so traumatized by anything that happened to Simon and I that she would end up having to have some kind of like, major mental health counselling, and, could potentially turn to anything like drugs or alcohol. And because again, that's the sort of thing that's portrayed on the dramas that we've watched. So I was very conscious to think, actually, I cannot let this destroy our family.
Yes, I was very conscious of that as well.
Mm,
All of us were very worried about, or very anxious about, everybody else. So when I said like Gael pulling me in, when we were walking along the road, Maya she didn't even like going in a car, for the first bit. She had a lot of problems with that. She got a job that was very near home, but I would go up and meet her afterwards and walk home with her. And
yeah,
even because I was worried about her,
yeah,
but Gustavo was worried about me going out and
yes,
meeting her.
exactly.
Everyone was like, "Where are you?" We
Yeah.
were like, even.
We do that, yeah, and we're still doing that now. I must admit, we definitely tap in more than we ever used to do, and I suppose that's just like a natural thing. But because we were the same, Nadia would say, "Oh, how long are you going to be out for, and what time are you coming back?" And Nadia's not driving, so we would make a point of making sure we're picking her up, and wherever she went, someone would say, "Oh, if you need a lift, you make sure you let us know and we'll come and get you. It doesn't matter what time." That's what we would have done anyway, to be fair. But it just highlights it a bit more, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think one of the sort of going back on, so with different children, different things worked. So I'm thinking with Gael, because he was younger at primary school, he had a really good teaching assistant who'd worked in a hospice or had done some sort of training. She was great, but she left after about 6 months. But that's what he needed. He needed
Yes,
somebody that he knew, that he trusted. So she'd take him out and do like skipping and things that he liked doing, drawing and skipping and stuff like that, or going for a walk in the forest
yeah,
with a dog. She would do things like that with him. Um, and there and and then he would gradually build up confidence.
mm.
But then she left, and then there was nobody. And then I just sort of waiting for when he might need help. And he's done something at secondary school, which was good, which is another art therapy thing, which I thought was like a talk and draw thing,
Yes,
which I think has been useful, but it's hard to tell. But he's sort of constantly waiting and watching for the signs. But also sometimes I think the schools are thinking you're overly worrying. So I'd say, I think, one of the children, say Layla, was going through it was a very roller coaster, like we do, roller
mm.
coaster. 1 minute she seems to be all right,
Yeah,
and then the next minute she's completely down. She can't get out of bed.
mm.
She's clear, she's like wanting hugs and stuff all the time. And they'd be saying, "Oh, no, 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 young people are very resilient. She's fine. All her teachers, we talked to her teachers and she seems to be fine."
Oh,
And I thought, well, are you thinking that I'm overreacting? But in fact, then she went to them and said, "I'm finding it really hard," and they were like, "Oh."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, yeah, um, I do think sometimes that they maybe over exaggerated she's just being a normal teenager kind of thing.
I think they kind of like forget the topic. They get they're missing the point. They're missing the point that somebody young has died. It's their sister. And again, it's back to that where it's a different death, where it's sudden, it's unexpected. You run through your head all the time and think, I can't believe I was at work. I was at work, and I was ringing Jack to see how he was. He didn't ring me back, like I said. But it was you just don't expect this. You read
It
about
is.
this. You don't.
You think about what you were doing. We were like at that time, at the very moment that she was dying, we were having our dinner, and I can't eat the thing that we had.
Yeah.
It makes me feel absolutely sick, to even think of it. And yeah, it's and I'm sure that they are thinking they have similar kinds of things and similar, like I think Maya had a bit like OCD type behavior. That's normal as a reaction to that. That's how anybody would react. But I don't think there's much around for. I think
No,
spoke
no,
about that
definitely
before.
not.
There's not. It's tricky because how do you get them to do
Yeah.
these things? Uh,
Well, we spoke to I think it was Compassionate Friends that we had spoken to. Or who was the one that you had mentioned? It was before Road Peace, Grief Encounter. And I think they mentioned, because Simon and I were doing the group sessions that you do.
yeah.
Which we found helpful to a point until we found Road Peace, actually. But because Nadia was under 18, there wasn't anything she couldn't join our podcast. She couldn't join any of the not the podcast, but the support groups that were online because she was under 18. And one of them did say, "Oh, we do have there is an online thing for 16 to 18-year-olds, but it's unmanned." And I thought that was quite a dangerous suggestion, because if there's not someone who is in control of that platform, then
It's quite something, isn't it?
yeah,
Because the ones for adults, they have.
it's very structured. It's very structured. Yeah.
So why do they not have them for
No.
16 to 18-year-olds? I didn't find anything
Yeah.
at all. It seemed to be all for younger kids
Mm.
or for adults.
And because Nadia was 7.
I went to the GP as well because it's something, this has been went on for, several years and different phases and anxieties and
Yeah.
breakdowns and all through A levels and GCSEs and all the things that they've had to go through, and they just had to relentlessly. Life goes on, going on, and the teachers, Layla's teachers for A levels, they were amazing, really, really supportive of her. It was just, it was just. At some stage I went to the GP, and that was even worse. I was just like, "Oh, we'll sign them up for the CAMS." Oh, actually, they put Gael down for something, and it took about a year before he actually got the appointment. And it was an appointment for some, God, I can't remember the name of it, but some sort of trauma therapy thing where they help you to file their memory back.
Oh, yeah.
That thing. And then they spoke to him, and then they said, "Oh, we don't think it's right for him." And if they'd have told me that that's what they had signed him up for, I could have told them that was not the right.
Yeah, exactly.
He just needed like some form of somebody to talk to, really.
Yeah. And this is the thing, there's such a gap, because I don't understand why there isn't more out there, more support out there. And doctors, I know it's changing a bit because I work in a primary school, and we do now have one of the wellbeing coaches is trained in mental health for the adults, and also they have bereavement counselling for the children. But that's taken a while. It's only just coming in, and of course, Nadia wasn't at school. She was she'd gone straight from during COVID, she had gone straight from school straight into her hairdressing job. And I think that's the only thing that is is a plus. If they have got good people around them, good friends. Nadia had her boyfriend Ethan, who was amazing, and he is amazing. But she had she's got a good group of friends that were constantly tapping in, seeing how she was. And her work colleagues have just been, they literally took her under their wing.
It's
And
brilliant because
mm,
sometimes young people, they're not, they just don't. I mean, gosh, it's hard enough for us.
yeah,
But I found that some of the people, like that Layla, when it first happened, they didn't know what to say, or they said the wrong thing. And
mm,
they said stuff about angels and she's gone to be an angel or whatever. And Layla was like, that's just not helpful at all.
yeah,
And also then they'd have a go at her for being withdrawn,
yes.
because they just didn't understand.
But I think their experience is what we've experienced with our friends and family, the ones that don't get it. And I suppose there's always going to be pockets of people that actually really do understand. I can just dip their toe into a fraction of what you're going through.
But it's more difficult for them, I think.
Yeah,
It's going to be young people, it's impossible.
they speak there.
They've
Yeah,
gone through anything like that. But yeah, I think it's really hard. It's whether they've got the right people there and
yeah.
around them already, and they kind of step up.
Well, I remember someone at work had just said to me, as long as she's talking to somebody, and I remember Ethan had said that, just to let you know, Nadia does talk about Jack, and one of my close friends, their daughter, she had said the same thing. Nadia has been talking to her, and I thought, well, that's a comfort, because I suppose we want it to be different because we're going through this trauma. But in reality, because they're teenagers, they don't want to talk to their mums and dads at the best of times.
I know.
Exactly. So why do they want to talk to us now? But it's just that, because we want to protect them, and we want to keep them safe, and we just want to hold them and just say, we're going to try and make this some form of better.
Yeah, but also very aware that you don't want to be like only talking about the person who died,
Yeah.
because they also have their lives to lead.
Yeah.
So you don't want to make them feel that you're not that interested in their lives or whatever. You're just
That their lives matter.
Yeah.
Their lives matter, and that's
yeah, it's very, very difficult.
that's one thing that I wanted to make sure, was that Nadia knew that her life mattered, and then there wasn't going to be, obviously there was going to be a change, but I wanted to make it as reassure her that this isn't the end of us as a family, that we'll work through this. And that's when, obviously, meeting you has just been an absolute godsend, because when we talk, we're recognizing the same things, that what our children are doing or not doing. I found that, well, actually, that's what Nadia's like. Nadia does that, and Nadia's like that. So you don't feel on your own.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest things, is not feeling you're on your own, and you're the only one that's experiencing this, and there's no hope.
Yeah.
Because having friends like you, the friends that we never really wanted,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
we're part of that club that nobody wants to join, I guess. But it helps. It really helps knowing that there's other people that are experiencing the same things as you.
Yeah. And on that note, I guess we have to close this episode.
Yeah.
And next time we'll be talking about work. How useful or not useful it might be.
Exactly.
And what kind of support we got there or didn't. Okay. So thanks very much for tuning in.
Oh, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.